Cool. Cool. All right, we will get started. I know it's Thursday morning. I'll maybe try and slow down the first bit and then let people catch up. We'll see how it goes. But thank you all for joining. I'll get into it. So I'm going to be talking about onboarding the next generation of games talent. My name is Nigel Twumasi. I'm the co-founder of the brand mayamada. So we are a storytelling brand. And that essentially means we talk about stories. We make stories as well. So we make manga-style comic books. I'm not going to talk about that. I could do a whole talk about that, but here to talk about young people. So yeah, we make stories. We also do a lot of workshops with young people, creative workshops, whether it's comic storytelling, game design, esports. So engaging young people using storytelling mediums like comics, like video games. We've been doing some form of work experience for a number of years at our events. So we do games events, we do different types of events. We go to places like Comic-Con. And last year, we started the first steps of our work experience program called Showrunners. And one thing I should also say, it'll be relevant later, is that our brand, I promised I wouldn't talk about comics, and now I'm immediately talking about our comics. But our brand is set within a television network. So our comics tell the story of different shows on the network. So just to give some context, it will also be relevant later. And then we also do the video game diversity campaign, Do I Look Like a Gamer? So I was here last year talking about diversity in game narrative, and we do a bunch of events and activities over the year with the aim of challenging the stereotype of the word gamer and showcasing pathways into the industry, into the culture for young people from diverse backgrounds like myself. So just to give a heads up of what I'm going to talk about, so this is the summary up front. What I'm looking to do is bring together some of our experiences in working with young people, either in our workshops, particularly in our work experience program, and talk about different aspects of what we have learned as an organization, as a team. So I want to talk about some of the things that we've learned as it relates to like the hurdles that we've seen in attracting and retaining talent. A lot of this is focused on Gen Z, Gen Alpha. Like I said, we do workshops from as young as sort of upper primary, a lot of secondary, college, and then university as well. So yeah, I've seen a few things, as daunting as that sounds. So, and some certain patterns start to emerge. Then also talk about like the ecosystem. So not just what we're doing, but what we've seen other people doing and how it can all benefit getting young, diverse talent into the games industry. And then along the way, hopefully able to provide some things to think about, some takeaways, whether you're a studio, whether you are an aspiring professional looking to get into the industry. And I know I've met both categories at Develop. So this is going to be me telling a story. So as a storytelling brand, when I do these talks, I like to frame them in a context of a story. So I'm not going to throw a bunch of like stats. I want to talk about like the young people that we have dealt with and what we've learned from them. But I'm going to start with stat because this struck me as talking to people. Like we talk to a lot of young people who are studying some form of game design in college or university, and very keen to get into the games industry, very keen to get into places like Develop and talk to people like yourselves. But it comes with a bit of like a reality check as well. So I was looking, I got this from gamesindustry.biz, who I think got this from Hitmarker, talking about 5.9% of entry-level roles from the jobs posted in the first half of 2022, which is in some ways alarming. It does say there's a big hurdle when we talk about hurdles to attract talent. It's difficult for young people, and whenever I talk to them, I always try and be optimistic because they're not about to not all of them are about to go into jobs right that moment, but be realistic in terms of the difficulty. I think part of the thing I've seen with education and that path into the industry is that there's a lot of young people who are, without sounding too negative, are under the impression that there is a job waiting for them when they finish their studies. And obviously, we know that the games industry is in a difficult stretch at the moment, and even without that, it is difficult for young talent to get in. So that's something I've had to kind of adjust expectations, but I'll talk a bit more about that later. The other part, and sort of more relevant to what we're talking about here at this conference, is the inner workings of the games industry, which, to my surprise, even for those who are studying game design, the games making process remains a relative black box. So I'm quite stunned actually by the number of young people I speak to and don't know about the process of making games, don't necessarily know about the events that are happening, that they can go to, that they can learn from. And it's stuck in my mind, and I've tried to understand why. And I feel what I've got to is that for your average young person, their main point of contact for games is essentially marketing. It's them, they're all consumers. So I always go to a workshop, I say, you know, we make comics, we do games events, and all the time, hands go up for those people who play games. So they're all very familiar being consumers. But when it comes to being producers, either knowing they can be producers or knowing the steps, there are much fewer hands that go up. And it's come to my realization that it's not always their fault. There's an element of responsibility there where, games are shown to them in the form of marketing, in the form of trailers, new releases, things that they can consume, not so much what they can do to get into the industry. So I feel that's one of the things that, as a brand, through our activities, we try and do, and that's something that we can do more of as a collective, in terms of showing where the steps are, what the process is, and where the steps are to get to them. And then another barrier that I've come across is this kind of idea that you need experience to get experience. So I know for games jobs, there's often a requirement of needing X number of years experience in a game-specific environment to qualify for this job. For a lot of young people, they don't have that. You're unlikely to get that coming out of college, coming out of university. But that's not to say they don't have skills that aren't relevant. So in terms of another barrier, that becomes something that turns away a lot of young talent, where they feel that they need a very specific set of skills or experiences, very specific set of experiences that they don't have and don't know where to get. And then when they do get through the door, it's a question of, is this for me? And one of the things that keeps coming up I think actually there's a talk right now about imposter syndrome and thinking or believing that you belong in this space. From our experiences with young people, that's very much top of mind in terms of, do I belong here? Particularly whether it's, do I have the right skills? Do I look like I should belong here? So as we go into challenges of like onboarding and also retaining talent, there's a few different areas that we've seen are relevant to young people and something to keep in mind. So whether it's DI, EDI, JEDI, which is a new one I've learned recently, it does matter. The idea of diversity in all its forms does matter for this generation, and it perhaps matters more than it has in previous generations. And I think what's important to note, what I've found, is this idea of diversity beyond the marketing aspect of it. So I think for a lot of young people, there's an idea of wanting to belong in an environment, and belonging in an environment means knowing that the people there understand you as an individual and not just as a tick box, to use that phrase. So as part of our campaign, we talk a lot around diversity, whether it's ethnic diversity, gender diversity, neurodiversity, or just different experiences, and how that translates into the experience of a young person, a new starter at an organization once they do make it through the door. And it's not just the on-screen diversity. I know there's a lot of discussion around bringing different characters into games, different playable characters, different stories, and that's all good. That's something that we also talk about. But I think what's perhaps more meaningful is the idea of off-screen diversity. So not just having the characters that you play, but the people who make the characters, make the stories. And it's important to think about when recruiting for talent, to find that talent in different spaces. So for example, if you're talking about creating games that take the player through different cultures, through different types of characters, it's also important to have those people making the game that reflect those cultures, those perspectives that you have in the game, and that gives an opportunity. So I feel when we're talking about like attracting young talent, there's an opportunity there to bring different skills in, different experiences that can help improve the games that we play. So another aspect is this idea of work-life balance, and yeah, just the idea of like, even though games is a passion, is something that we all in this room, in this building, enjoy doing, it's almost like a dream job for a lot of young people. But then it is a job, and it's something that we have to remind them. I'm sure you might have done that in some form, about the balance of between work and the rest of your life. And I feel for this generation that's coming up, it's a case of what has been hard for us to learn has come easy for them. So there's things that previous generations have struggled through, whether it's mental health, which is something that is being talked about more and more, or just that general work-life balance that we have, I say, so we have talked about, maybe gone without it being top of mind, but it's now an expectation for that new generation. So then it comes a case of, what do you do to ensure that people aren't working more than they have to, that their mental health is being taken care of, that their well-being is being addressed, because that kind of thing is expected from the younger generation. Then the other aspect to this is the creative freedom. And we've seen this a lot with the young people that we work with on our work experience program. So I'll talk a bit more about it towards the end. But I think what I've seen is that they want to come and know that what they do has an impact. And being a small organization, we've been able to give that. And we've seen the difference it makes in people when they've been able to have the responsibility put on them in terms of the final output, whether it's one of our events, whether it's a comic that we're working on. And I'll try to take some aspect of feedback that we've got from our young people that we've worked with. When I was putting this together, I did think about trying to clean up the grammar in this. So it's not perfect grammar, but I thought I'd just like leave it as it came. But this came from one of the people on our Showrunners program who highlighted in their feedback the aspect of being involved in the work that we're doing and having a goal to reach for. So a sense of meaning beyond the specific work that they were doing. And I feel that's something that I've seen them react to in a positive sense. So one of the things that we aim to do is explain what they are working on, but also why they are working on. So as a brand, we have a certain set of values and certain why around the work that we do. So for us, it's about using storytelling as a storytelling brand to develop creativity in others and people of all ages. So when they come on board, they are essentially like told that they know the why to the work that they're doing. And I feel that makes all the difference into them understanding what they do and understanding the meaning behind what they do. Another aspect of working with past generation or future generations is feedback. And this is something along the way I've had to learn myself in terms of being able to manage young people. I've certainly had to learn about management myself. And one of the big learnings for me personally is the need for feedback, and not just feedback when something has been done wrong, because I found I was good at doing that, but feedback when something is being done right. And there's that aspect of, I said earlier, about sort of belonging and of knowing why you're doing this, of knowing that you are in the right place. So we had a young person and she was working in marketing. So her interest was in marketing, and she helped us develop a sense of our value. So she helped us go through a process. She actually inputted on the process. And what we found towards the end of her time with us is that about halfway through, she didn't know she was doing a good job. And that struck me because she was doing a great job. And that's the thing. She was very, very quiet, but like quietly competent and reliable in terms of the work she was doing, but also the communication, the way she went about her work. It's like it's a very good start in terms of what she was doing. But I didn't feed back that she was doing a good job enough so that she was confident in the work she was doing. So that's something I had to learn. And in other young people that we've had through our program, it's something that's come up a few times of them wanting to know that, is this a good job? What am I doing right? And of course, if things aren't being done up to standard, then showing them the right way. So it's that constructive feedback, which is so important. So what we've had to do is put in processes to ensure that on a regular basis, we're feeding back on the work they're doing, so they don't feel lost, in a sense. They don't feel lost. They know they're going in the right direction. So that's some of the things that we've picked up on in terms of importance for young people to consider when in a working professional environment. What I also want to talk about is some of the strengths of young people and some of the things to think about in terms of why we should care about bringing in future generations, young talent, diverse talent. So they're your customers. So we make games, and I feel the video games industry is in some sense in a great place of having such a powerful connection with the audience, who could be, like I say, going from consumer to producer. So the young people, they play games, and like I mentioned, when we go to workshops, everyone plays some form of games. Usually there's ones that come up: Fortnite, Roblox, GTA, even though most of them aren't old enough, but I don't judge. But they definitely play games, and that brings an insight that they have, because they play games, their friends play games, they have thoughts and opinions on games, and all those could be used to inform the games that are made in future. So it's important to keep in mind. Other aspect is they come with a creativity and open-mindedness. So I've had to learn this. Again, a lot of this is me learning about the way we work and what we can learn. So we've had many young person on our work experience bring their ideas, and I always say to them, don't be afraid to bring your ideas. It doesn't mean we're going to do all of them, because it doesn't always work like that, but we always want to hear them, and we always want that open line of communication. So in doing that, that's helped them feel more comfortable in voicing what they see as right way to do things, what they see as the wrong way to do things. A recent example is we had someone in our events coordination. So we do our own events. We go to events like Comic-Con, like I said earlier, and she looked at our website, she looked at our social media, and she said to me, can I voice an opinion? She said, I don't want to be out of turn, but can I voice an opinion? And I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And she said, I don't know how old you are, but I feel like the website is very millennial. And I said, that's because I'm a millennial. But she comes from a different generation. So after that bruised to my ego, we went ahead and talked about some of her feedback in terms of how we can better do our social media, what we can do to improve the website going forward. And since then, she's come up with a lot more ideas. But that is the point. The point is for them to bring their creativity, their perspective of doing that, and for that to inform the process of what we do where it makes sense. And I feel we've been able to shape our processes to accommodate those thoughts, that feedback. And like I say, it doesn't always all get done. I try and be as transparent and honest as I can, where some things we do because it has to be done that way, at least for that time. But where things can change, always open to new ideas. And a bit more feedback where we've seen like the impact of the way we work having a positive approach. So this idea of being able to work independently and having that boost their confidence such that they become more responsible in the work that they do. So we've seen that given the space to fail, it does mean some people do fail, but that's what the feedback is for. But what it also means is that it gives them space to learn, to develop, and to show what they can do. So in this case, this was someone who maybe wasn't, or was more used to being told where to go and what to do coming from schooling system. And we were able to, because our work experience is sort of part remote, part in person. So we're able to give them their own space while still checking in on them, but give them their own space to manage the time that they had to get the work that they were given done in the time that we needed it. And again, sometimes it means, particularly early on, they don't get things right all the time. But what it does mean is that once they realize, again, the why, what they're doing, and especially working with others, they do step up, or they have that ability to step up. And all that is to say that I found that this generation sometimes gets a bad rap. Sometimes they've been seen as not as reliable, not as capable, but they can be more capable than you think. Now, like I said, I deal in stories, so we're a storytelling brand. So I always like to give examples from stories that I've seen, that I've learned along the way. And we recently talked about this film, Kubo and the Two Strings. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's really good stop motion animation. And there's a scene in this which really encapsulates what I feel the different generations or past generations see for young people. I'll play the clip and then explain on the other side.
Your conversation is over. Monkeys don't swim.
Not to worry. Monkey see, monkey do.
Oh, how long have you been waiting to say that?
Ever since I met you. Hey, what were we grown-up conversationing about?
No, you're ridiculous. You're just absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Crossing the lake is a ridiculous idea. It's not your fault. There's no sense left in your head.
I think I resent that. I may not know everything. Anything, but I do know Kubo is more capable than you think he is. You're being a tiny bit overprotective here.
You're being a lot overprotective here. It's my job to make sure Kubo is safe, and that is not safe. You are not safe. Kubo is just a child.
And an incredibly gifted one. He just saved our lives.
Yes, he's very powerful, but he still has much to learn. What?
Well, fast lurker. Did you know you could do that?
Show off.
So yeah, so this is a film about a kid, Kubo, who has to find these pieces of armor to fight off like a evil spirit. I won't get too into it, but along the way, he has these two characters, Monkey and Beetle, and they sort of fight. They do this whole parenting thing going on, but they fight over whether to protect him or to let him do his own thing. And in that scene, while they're arguing about whether to let him be himself, he's off making this incredible boat that they use to cross this sea. And I felt that's such a great analogy for some of the conversations that I've seen that often talk about the young people, forgetting that they are themselves capable of great things if given the opportunity. And we've certainly seen that in our work. Again, I go back to this one young person who did a great job with our values, because I had a process. So I should say my background is in engineering. So actually, I'm very much, well, we've been doing this for a long time, but at the beginning is very much, this is not my area. So I'm learning everything as we go. But she was able to, I think she studied psychology, something. So she was able to bring a process that I knew nothing about, and have a better go of extracting the data that we had collected from people, from surveys, to pull out the values that we now use today. So it was a case of, definitely surprised me, but a case of giving her that space, and she made something really great. But that's not to say it's all good. So I wanted to give a bit of balance in this. So there are definitely areas for improvement. Are there any teachers in okay, cool, this might be for you. This is your bit. So there are definitely areas for improvement when it comes to future generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, coming into the professional workplace. We've seen them in our organization, and I've talked to a lot of people in games and in other areas, and yeah, there's room for improvement. So I'll go through a few of these. I should also say, I should have said this at the top, that as well as being the co-founder of mayamada, I'm also on the advisory committee for the Children's Media Conference, and advisory group for Young BAFTA, and then up until the election, the London Mayor's Cultural Leadership Board. And in all cases, it provides me with a great opportunity to talk to people who either make content for young people, work with young people in some way. So as well as I've given the perspective from our experiences, a lot of this is also informed by conversations from people in different industries as well as games. So with that being said, some of the areas for improvement. So technical aptitude. It's interesting to see that a lot of young people, particularly those that are studying game design, still miss out, not only miss out, like I said, on some of the processes in games, so they might not have a clear understanding of how games are made, the different steps that it takes, but also miss the wealth of resources that they have around them outside of school, outside of education. I often see a bit of, I'd say, like tunnel vision in terms of where they can go to get information. Once they know, those that do, they can take advantage of it. Just yesterday, I was talking to someone that who's co-founded an animation studio, and he was talking about an intern that they had who was all self-taught, came into their company and has been there for, I think he's like 5 years, and he's still there now, but all self-taught, never learned animation from school, but from YouTube videos and things like that. And yeah, it just strikes me that there's something missing in terms of being able to. Sometimes it's like self-motivated to find information, but that link between the information they have around them and the will to go and get it. So that's one of the things in terms of the gaps in production, like the games production, but also the gaps in, I'd say, like storytelling. So an example, we had someone with us who was very keen to do video and content editing. So he was familiar with the tools. So he did have some technical aptitude. He was familiar with Premiere Pro, I think he used. And we do a lot of content. So we do like live streams on Twitch. We do a podcast. So some of the tasks I gave him were related to taking the content and making clips. But what struck us, myself and my colleague Tazi, as we spoke to him, is that while he had the technical aptitude, he could use the tools, he was missing a bit of the why. So the best clips to take and why he should take certain moments, or why he shouldn't be repeating certain things that were said in clips. So it's just that understanding of, yes, the technical aptitude to a certain extent, but also what to get for our brand and what makes sense in that case. So there's the technical side of things, and as well as the technical side, this for me is a big one, and I feel almost in some ways bigger than the technical ones, because you can when it comes to it, you can learn, you can go somewhere and learn the technical side of things, but the professionalism and soft skills, and this for me is the one that will impact a lot of young people making that move into professional world of work. The things like communication, timekeeping, how they are self-starting and being able to manage their own time. So some people get it, not everyone does. So we've seen a lot of cases where being able to communicate across email is not there. Being able to communicate that even basic things like you're running late or what time commitments you've got or you can make, it's lacking in some cases. Again, not everyone, but in some cases it's lacking. So what we try and do is give them a grounding when they start, to set our expectations in terms of how we work, the tools that we use to communicate, and how they can integrate into that. But also try and make it general, because the thing for us is that what they learn from us, they can go anywhere and apply it, transferable skills. But definitely that ability to work in a team environment effectively sometimes needs to be improved upon. And also this idea of thinking about the company and not yourself. So we had a couple instances, this one in particular, where we had asked a young person to do some research into the cost of materials for an event project that we were working on. And after having a discussion with them, we realized that they were looking at things as expensive for them and not thinking about it as expensive for a company. It was quite a funny realization at the time. So just the idea of like, you're not working on something for yourself. It's not your money being spent, it's the company's money. But as an example, just the idea of like going from an education environment where it is about what you do and very much individual, to go into a team sort of organization business environment where now it's the considerations about what the company needs and what the company resources are. Not that we have a bunch of money or anything, but you know. So all that points to what I feel is needed, this idea of training and mentorship. And there's a lot of good work being done. Organizations, I mentioned Young BAFTA have their Young Game Designers initiative, organizations like Next Gen Skills Academy that we've worked with, Into Games that we've worked with, and I know Limit Break have their mentorship program as well. So I feel that's all important. And this is where I go into some steps as an industry we can keep in mind in terms of how to deal with this new generation coming forward so they can best be placed into the industry and bring themselves into the industry. It's also a bit self-serving here. So the first thing to keep in mind is, as a games industry, you do not need to solve all the problems. And this is something that I always try and remind people of. So it's not on any one organization, individual, to solve all the problems of this whole pipeline. I feel that's very key, because we all have something that we are good at, an area of expertise. We certainly have areas that we're good at and areas that we're not so good at. So it is about those partnerships. So while it's not on all of us to solve all the problems, we all do have a responsibility to have some part of the answer in this challenge. And I feel that this is a quote. This is not from one of our showrunners, but yeah, I like this quote because I feel it's the importance of working with young people and making sure that they are ready to go into the workplace is critical, because they are the ones that are in future going to become the senior leaders. So it's important to get them to ensure that they're ready to work, to ensure that they're ready to work for specific companies, because yeah, if we don't educate them, if we don't give them that opportunity to gain that commercial experience, and that's the important part, the commercial experience, we're going to lose a lot of capability in the industry. And for me, it reminds me of, so like this like this, one of our work experience said, I am a millennial. So I don't know if anyone remembers a game called Lemmings. So there's this game called Lemmings. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember. But basically, you've got these lemmings that have to get to one side to the other, and if you have to basically build the structure for them to get to the other side, and if you don't, they essentially die. So it's a bit grim, but I do feel it's an apt analogy, because what we've got is a generation of young people who are coming out of school, coming out of college, coming out of university, and if we don't train them properly, if we don't make sure that they can get over to the other side, we will lose them. So the way that we have to engage them, the way that we have to develop them is different than it has been done before, but it is crucial to ensure that we've got that talent that, like I say, can go on and become those senior leaders in the future. So to round up with some practical steps for onboarding future talent, I feel some of the things that we need to do is expose the process of making games beyond the marketing, so that the next generation understands the different steps, understands where their skills can be best placed in that, and don't just see games as just as something to play. Obviously, we all enjoy playing games, and don't just see games as coding and art and nothing else. So I feel that's important. Also important to focus on the skills wherever they come from. So in our interactions with young people, whether it's workshops, whether it is our work experience, I'm always mindful of not to tell anyone that they can or should do a specific job. What we're keen to do is pull out the skills and tell them where they could be applied. And I feel that's, for us, and where that's a better approach, because it doesn't necessarily limit them, particularly in an area where a job that is here today may not be tomorrow, and we don't want them to feel that if it's not there, they can't do anything. So it's very much a skills. But back to what I was saying earlier about the idea of you have to get a certain set of experience to get into games. Maybe if we focus on the skills and the personalities, it might broaden the net, so to speak. So we talk a lot about diversity in games through our campaign, but it is important, as well as a moral case for diversity, there is a business case for it as well, because games are stories. We all want better games, we want better stories, and stories are about getting different perspectives, playing different perspectives. So it is important to cultivate that diverse workforce, to encourage that young generation to not only get here, but stay here, feel they belong here, so they can bring that different perspective into the games that we're making. Personal one for me is to think about the ecosystem and not charity. So I often get sort of positive responses of people saying, I'm giving back, and I always accept that. I appreciate the positive feedback, but I don't want people to see what we do as charity. It's more of an investment in the ecosystem and the future of creative industries. So us spending time with young people is about making sure that they're fully prepared to enter this experience, not just doing a nice thing so that we can feel good at the end of the day. So if you think about the ecosystem and where we're best placed to serve that ecosystem, I think we'll all benefit from that. So all that, like I said, came from some of our discussions, a lot of our talks, and workshops, and in our Showrunners Work Experience program. So just to round off, it is about creating meaningful opportunities to develop commercial experience. So by working on our comics, our events, they gain that experience that can transfer into other areas. And from we started this last year, so something we're continuing to develop. It's you consider it like an alpha. It's like an alpha version at the moment, but as we go, we do try and evaluate, get feedback from them, from the young people that go. So it is something that we've seen some positive impacts here. Although even though this is real feedback, I will question the sufficiently supported. One of the things that I've learned is that I think one of the feedback, or multiple feedback that's come back, is that because I'm quite busy, it's sometimes hard to get hold of me. So that's something I need to keep in mind as well. But by and large, they do feel sufficiently supported by what we're doing. And then, like I said, in the same way that we don't tell people what they should and should do in terms of roles, we always feel it's important to understand the individual motivation. So some of the things I was saying earlier are about making people feel like an individual, like their individual needs are met. So we do something where we use a process known as motivational maps to understand the individual motivations, what motivates them in a workplace setting. And then we map that to different areas, different profiles, personality profiles. So we know, by the way, all these names are sort of branded because, like I said at the beginning, our brand is set within a television network. So our characters and stories are all within that. So we've come up with TV-related profiles. But the important thing is that we know who are the natural leaders, who are more action-orientated, who are those those detail-oriented support workers, who are the more energetic, the more social ones, and who are those leaders who like to support people. So once we know that, then we can better tailor our program, but then we provide that information to the individual so they can go beyond our program and take that knowledge with them. And we found that it helps them find their sense of place within the working environment. But ultimately, it is about giving them some autonomy and freedom to fail. I always say I'll describe our work experience to like teachers and careers leads that it's like managed failure. So it's giving them that space to fail, to do something, to maybe fail, but to understand why they failed and to improve, and they'll be better for that. They don't always appreciate it, but I feel in the long term it improves. So that's just about it. So if anyone wants to talk to me, I will be about for the day. There's definitely ways that you can get involved in what we're doing, but also just to chat. I am around all day. We have different options. So we work with some organizations in terms of providing talks. We also talk to organizations about how they can engage with young people as well. So feel free to come and find me. I will be wandering the halls throughout the day. But other than that, thank you. If there are any questions now, I don't know if we have time, but if there are any questions now, I can take questions, or you can find me around the day. And I can't see the audience because these lights are really effective. There you go. Or was that all well explained and no questions? All good. Oh, good. Go on.
I'm interested in for young people, especially racially diverse young people, the inns that you were mentioning. You were saying there's young BAFTAs, there's a young, what were the four ones you mentioned about?
So I mentioned, Young BAFTA have a couple initiatives. One in particular is the Young Game Designers initiative. So it's where young people aged 10 to 18 can develop games that are judged, and they go to a showcase event. It was last weekend. No, this weekend just gone. So there's that. There's Next Gen Skills Academy, a great organization that work a lot with colleges in terms of providing remote and in-person work experience opportunities and otherwise connecting them with industry. Into Games do a similar thing in terms of providing live briefs set by companies in specifically in games. Next Gen do animation, VFX, and games. Into Games specific to games, and then Limit Break are a mentor organization, so they pair up aspiring talent with mentors in the games industry, and just give them that. I think it's like 6 months of support of follow-ups and one-to-one talks and events.
Thank you. Also, do you know about the Creative Mentor Network?
I don't.
They do some work in Brighton, so I think they might be interested. Maybe I'll talk to you after.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
I learned something as well. Cool. Time's up. I'm giving a signal. But you can find me loitering around for the rest of the day. But thank you, guys.